Okay. Ha! Now we're cooking.
Now we're cooking. All
They
right, good
can't
looking. Let's
stop
go.
me. Oh, continue without. It says it's going.
Nice.
Tell you, it's being a little interesting today, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Marketing Monday with your boys Pat and Zach. It's going
What's up,
down.
Pat?
We like to use Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook creator live streaming thing, even though, Zuck, bro, you got to make it way more convenient for people to use software, but we're here for you, buddy. So we're live. It is Zach Hoffman, Pat Hilton, Social Authority, and we're giving you the Marketing Monday update. Zach, how you doing, buddy? You did some quality work this weekend filming your new stuff. I'm just going to call it new stuff because we don't want to spill any beans. It's just
we'll keep
new
a little bit of it under
stuff.
wraps, but definitely, it was a fun exercise, man. A couple of days, 48 hours of intense content creation, getting out there. Had a camera crew, 3 guys, 1 drone operator, 2 camera operators, and a driver. So
I love it. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's
whole
what it
crew.
takes. I mean, you're going for the next level this year, and you're trying to attract a certain type of clientele. And I think that's why it's going to work, is because you are specifically targeting a client avatar. Why is that so important? I think when you're making content, myself included, a lot of my content this year is going to be about why it's so important to make videos, why you got to post videos, video. I want to be known as the guy that makes everybody's videos. And I don't know that I've communicated that as well as I should have over the past few years.
Well, it's definitely, over the past 20 years, as we've evolved and just as I've built the business, look, the success is defined by a handful of clients, but the reality is not everybody's qualified to be a client or even is actually out there doing what they have to do to qualify to position themselves to need an effective agency partner. So, you find a pack of people that are, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people in an industry. You'll only see a small percentile that are actually doing marketing and advertising. When you're talking 5, 10, 20 individuals or individual organizations that are actually marketing and advertising, that's a fraction of a percent. So there's a lot of people that like to say they're doing it, but the reality is when you back out the numbers or you go out there and you explore who's actually marketing and advertising, it's a thin pack.
Yeah, totally. And I also think it's important for people to remember that, like, you have got to be confident in your thing. You've got to be so confident in your thing that you're doing it regardless of whether people are liking it or following it or whatever, because eventually, if you're good, people are going to flock to you anyway. And so I've always said that if you're good enough and you do it long enough, you're going to get the recognition. Now, that's proven true for me in a lot of different categories.
I would have to debate that a little bit. I mean, look, there's always the philosophy, if there's a tree that falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, to make any noise at all. So the reality is like people are like, oh, I'm doing well, I don't need to advertise or market. Like, really? Google advertises, Meta advertises.
Oh, well, yeah. When it comes to marketing, I mean, you got to get really good at your craft, right? One, and then you got to be putting it out there every day. So I want to make sure I'm clear with that. Yeah, you got to practice and get really, really good and put it out there every day. When you put it out there every day, at first, it might not be very good. But as you continue to do it, you get good enough and you promote it long enough, people usually will start to recognize the fact that you've got some skills.
Yeah,
and you will start to attract the right people.
Well, definitely, there's an advertiser marketing syndrome too that I've personally seen from studying a lot of campaigns over the years, is where they just get static in a way because they feel that their approach is already like successful. Why tweak it? But the fact is the market's always moving, right? Because you have the big players, essentially the leaders of the pack, the publicly traded companies that are pushing the limit as to like how people engage with a business or how they engage with content and information. So it's really important to be tracking what an Amazon might be doing, what a Facebook might be doing, Instagram, like how they're engaging their audiences effectively, because it does relate back to your business. It doesn't necessarily, you're not immune to it. They're setting the curve. I mean, look, they're the monopoly players. And at the end of the day, when they continue to set the tone, set the pace, you gotta take some learnings from there and adapt it to your core business.
Totally. And one thing we're starting to implement is a lot more automated response. So, one of the tough things people have with social media is, well, how am I going to respond to everybody? And so now that we've built a system to film and get people topics, edit and post, well, now once it's posted, how do we get people to engage with it in a way that gets their information outside of the platform? And so now we've been building all of these systems where people can comment or send a message or text a number, and then they get added to the CRM, they get added to the email list, they get added to the newsletter, and now they're getting updated on what's coming next. And this is something that I think the business conferences are really, really good at, is they have check-in booth and they make sure that they get everybody's information and they keep them updated and they email them workbooks and they send them this or they send them that and they want them to come back the next year. And when someone comes to your Instagram page or your Facebook page and they want to connect with you, how do we make it as easy as possible for those people to fill out a form and get into our system? And so I think sending them to a landing page, website, or something like you've suggested is very essential. I went and I edited my whole website to make it easier to fill out the form. And so,
no, for sure. Call to actions are everything. Call to actions are everything in every form of marketing and advertising. But even the model of conferences, like you bring that up, as we move into 2025, they're conference producers putting on the same conference for the past 10 or 20 years, right? So you look at these conferences and these trade shows and even being, a sponsor and an exhibitor, it's like, man, it's like they gotta change the game. The game has to evolve when you go to a conference. Like they either have to be like doing things with social media to go live, create more influence for the people that are exhibiting and sponsoring their organizations. But I mean, definitely there's, I think you can make more of a dent in the universe with strong social media creative and content, as well as like curated YouTube creation. That's going to hit more influencers that you're trying to influence by being in that trade show room that are actually out there seeking information throughout social media. Like the funnel and where people are these days is definitely, I think it's hyper evolving. It's
totally.
It's a different game than what it used to be. And I think that a lot of these trade shows and events, like they're essentially almost becoming like a destination. Like you see organizations and companies that are essentially even just having events as a loss leader to just attract more people into their funnel or their buying cycle. It's there's no way that some of these conferences and events that some organizations are throwing actually do back out, other than for them to be selling when people are there.
Yep. Or to just plain get more deals. We were talking earlier, we were kind of laughing like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Man, it'd be nice to have one of these songs on the new music album that I'm putting out go number one. How many number one artists do we know that never made any money? I would not be closing down my business because my music was successful for 1 or 2 years. Got to understand, what's the life cycle of that? What's the window of that? Even if I had a global hit, well, 5 years from now, let's just be real, most people wouldn't be talking about it anymore unless there were multiple other hits that followed it up. You got to understand the life cycle of a customer, the life cycle of a trend, and even if you're trying to do something huge, what's the back end look like? I would still be running the marketing agency. Well, clearly if I had a big hit, well, now I know how to market myself. Who else wants to market themselves? Who else wants a podcast? Who else wants to stream? I would not stop doing what I'm already doing. I would do the other stuff in addition to what I'm doing, which is the only reason why I'm coming out with it anyway. Because it's like, dude, you got to do it all.
Yeah. Well, we spoke about how Gary Vee has, massive, and your media is a massive agency right now, and definitely, it parlays off of, his success. I mean, you watched the Grammys last night, and there's a lot of artists out there, and definitely they use their influence to, essentially put out products, services, which, will get us in, why don't we just get started on some of the topics?
Or, I mean, your name's Beyonce, and they're like, well, we better give her the award because she's Beyonce, even though she's not country at all.
You can't go there, but hey, man, she's
we got to give it to her. The Country Music Awards snubbed her, so we're the Grammys, we're Hollywood. We're gonna give her the award.
I haven't listened to the album myself.
Neither have I.
I can't really judge, but definitely.
She's not a country artist, though. I mean, I'm sure she's got some great songs, but let's just be real. That was a corporate move to make the Grammys get what they wanted, and the country music people are pissed. That's why I want that clip. I want to see. Do you think out there? And I'm sure the album's pretty good, by the way. I'm actually a fan of Beyonce, but Beyonce is not a country artist. Do you think Beyonce should have won the Grammy or a Country Music Awards? Maybe Pat's just a hater. Maybe I'm just a hater. Let me know what you think in the comments. Big and Rich and a bunch of other country artists were laughing and tweeting and stuff about how she won the Grammy for like the best country artist when all these other incredible people lost.
It's
because she's connected, bro. It's only because she's connected. It's not because she's a better country artist than those people. It's because of the news cycle. Hey. That's my opinion. If I was running the Grammys, I might have given it to her too, just to get the response. So we'll see. Run down the line with it. You know me, right. Zach. I'm always trying to poke the bear.
No, I mean, the reality is she went outside of her genre, and maybe the album's that good. I think you just got to listen to it.
I'm going to have to go review the album. We're going to do an album review on next Monday's show.
You got it. Anyhow, to kick into Marketing Monday and some, various topics we have, one post can be more powerful than 10 or 100. Definitely, we'll talk a little bit about that. DeepSeek versus OpenAI. I ain't buying the BS of
me either.
Being like better, the cost savings and blah blah blah. The year of the influencer. I think we've been there for a few years, but I think it's hitting a tipping point where we're going to see a lot more in that cycle. And then essentially, where do you get your news from? We could do a little bit of follow up on that because we have some comments as to where people get their news from. And then, we were talking billboards, and just like when we're talking major metros and cities, and some analysis we did offline, definitely how big some of these bulletins can really get when you're looking at billboards. And they're pretty awesome. And Apple, being one of the largest companies in the world, is one of the top advertisers in the medium. So without further
in billboard advertising?
Yeah, they're one of the biggest advertisers.
Wow, that's actually surprising. I might come back and say Beyonce's album's the best album I've ever heard, and that Apple's and that everybody needs to buy a billboard. What the hell do we know?
What do you know, man? It creates market awareness. Definitely, a lot of advertising impressions. A lot of people drive, man.
It doesn't change the fact that y'all need to be streaming live and putting up daily vertical reels, but let's get into it.
Hey, man, definitely helps. Anyhow, to get moving forward, so I've been much more a student of Mr. Beast than I ever have, and was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about how one post or one video can be much more powerful than 10 or 100 videos. And essentially that he's paying so much attention to his data and the reaction of what people are doing that they continue to polish and refine a specific piece of content or creative to make that one post that really just like accelerates everything to the next level.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that, because now we're talking from my experience. I mean, I made thousands of videos that got no views. And then I finally in 2017 made one for Grant Cardone, made one for Gary Vee. And when they shared it, it got me opportunities. So I would ask people to consider, one, you definitely want to make content that you're passionate about, because you're just going to make better content if you're passionate about it. If you're forcing yourself to make content a certain way, it might not be very good. But if you're passionate about it and it's natural, you're going to naturally be better at it. The other thing is, you got to make content around stuff that people are actually talking about, which is why I keep bringing up Beyonce. People are talking about that record. Like you said, it was a gutsy move to go outside of her genre and to put that out. But look at all the press that it created. Look at the response that it created. The Grammys,
it keeps her relevant.
They had an opportunity
about having one hit. And Beyonce is an absolute, she's a mogul in music
I've had no hits. She's had about a
these
gazillion.
days, and she's
So
become a rock star.
it's unbelievable
Well,
what she's done.
yeah, a lot of it does come down to she's the original Destiny's Child. Now she's Jay-Z's wife. It's just like a lot of, maybe she doesn't like me calling her those things, but
It's true.
there's been a lot of, I would say, evolution of her career.
She made
Yeah, you
moves
continue to
based
see.
on what was going to do the best for her. Listen, there's a reason why Triple H married Stephanie McMahon. You know what I'm talking about? Hunter Hearst Helmsley was a pro wrestler. He was good, but he wasn't a great technical wrestler. He's a big physical guy. But once he got in with Stephanie McMahon and became the Game, well, now he's running the entire organization. He knew what he was doing. He went straight to the source. And in my opinion, she made a similar play. I'm sure Jay-Z's cool, by the way. It seems to me like they've got a good marriage. I mean, they seem very stable. They seem very grounded, X, Y, and Z. They're actually a 100% better example than most of these Hollywood lugheads. But at the same time, you don't just make a decision like that because it's not going to get you to the top. Those two both want to be at the top. There's nothing wrong with that. And in my opinion, they found a way to do it together. I got respect for that. Of course she's going to win the Grammy.
Hey, they have a lot of sway in that.
They
room.
do. Good for them. It's not that they didn't earn it. No one's saying they didn't earn it.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're thinking, how do I get my talent in front of the right audience? Well, then number one, what's the right audience? And number two, what do you need to do for someone to get to that audience? What do I need to provide for Grant Cardone or Gary Vaynerchuk? Or what kind of music do I need to provide this year in an album that's different than the last 15 years of my career to sustain it? I mean, people who are successful are always looking for the next edge, the next advantage. And so, judging by the decision that they made of where to pivot with her, clearly it worked because I'm talking about it.
Well, definitely it comes down to, we spoke about this briefly before the call, but it comes down to the content, the boldness of it, and then the design and implementation. I mean, content's just a fraction of it. It's the boldness of the message sometimes, and then, it's the implementation, the design, how it all comes together. There's just, it's marketing and advertising as we know it is not a static vanilla medium. Not everybody's going to be your fan when it comes down to it. And everybody should have the data of the demographics they've had success with. That's the bottom line,
Oh, yeah, totally.
But, to get back to it, definitely, a handful of posts can be worth more than 100. But in order to get to that one post, that handful of posts, you need to produce that 100 or those thousands to see what is resonating with the audiences out there or what is actually sparking a response. We had this conversation offline where we were talking about social media, and part of the pure aspect of it and what Instagram is saying is it comes down to shares, how many people are sharing your message, and then comments and interaction. All those things are huge. So when you have a post or you have creative that's sparking an engagement, you almost have to fan it in a way to get it to explode to that next level.
Dude, it's crazy. And I mean, you've got to be willing to shoot 1,000 shots to get the one that connects. I think I saw some meme the other day and it was like a vertical edit, like this. And so there were 3 pieces of the screen. One was the guy that never shoots the ball on top. He just stands there and holds the ball. And then the other guy was the guy that shoots it sometimes, then gets distracted, and then, shoots it. And then the bottom screen is the 1%. And he's just shooting the ball. It bounces off the rim, bounces off the backboard. One of them goes in. Shoots the ball, misses 7 times. One of them goes in. He's already scored and taken more shots than those people have taken in a month or in a year in 15 seconds that you've watched the video.
The huge games that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant would all put up, I mean, they were shooting 30, 40 shots. I mean, they're, definitely, you got to take the shots. It's like even in baseball, you got to get up to hit the ball. But, the top batting averages guys are hitting 1 out of 3.
Why are people so afraid to get 60 views on a video?
Why are people so afraid
Why are people afraid of that? You know what I mean? That's a solid question. Yeah. Like what does it matter if the video doesn't get a whole bunch of views, especially if you commit mentally to at least doing it once a day, or like in your case, you're not a weekend posting type of person, Monday through Friday. Yeah. Zach does it Monday through Friday. And if you go to his page, you've boosted a few things, right, internally, but like you've got stuff with hundreds of thousands of views, and you've definitely started to get a response from your client avatar.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you even look at it in like politics. I mean, I don't know how these guys have the stamina to do it, but people drag them through the mud for years, if not decades, and they're relentless and persistent, and they end up, with what they're looking for. I mean, to each his own.
I couldn't I couldn't be I don't know that I'd be a very good politician.
Hey man, who knows? The game is definitely evolving.
Well, I mean, Trump pulled it off. So I mean, Joe Biden and
but he
Donald
said it
Trump
best in his inauguration speech, and not to go there with him, but like he said he was, he had every reason not to keep pushing. They gave him every reason. I mean, even he took a bullet to the ear. It's just like
he did.
It's wild. I mean, it was relentless persistence and push. But look, in marketing and advertising, when you start to get an audience and you start to build up, just followers or people just looking at you or speaking back to you, it's just part of the game. It's you got to keep going, and that's probably becomes the hardest point when you start to get some critics that pop out of the woodworks that want to talk about, I mean, shit, man, if you go into my comments, see some of the stuff people post, like, really, dude?
What happened to your comments?
You really have to say that?
Zach is like the nicest, most laid back, genuine dude. And you guys are hopping on the comments like, this guy's a government cuck. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, what government? What? How did that happen? What? Us? Dude, we're the ones that don't want more of them. We're trying to tell you to do your thing and be independent and create your own thing so you don't need that pressure. Like, you completely misread the entire conversation, broskies.
I mean, it's not even that. It's just, asking people a simple question, where do you get your news from? I mean, just kind of like, really, irked a lot of people. But it's like, hey, man, that was a chord we hit,
So funny.
And testing a lot of content, but it wasn't even like a test. It's pure fact. It's like the pure fact that people are out there getting their news and media from social media influencers, from podcasts, from curated information. The media companies have to step up their game and be part of that conversation if they don't want to lose the audience.
And by the way, you commenters that came and dogged on our clip, you literally proved our point that people are getting their news from podcasters and independent people because you came on an independent person's comment board and took a dump. You proved our point. You're brilliant. We love you. Hey. Please come back.
No, it's definitely wild, the comments that people put out there, and
And what were with those accounts? Like, I went to the guys. No way. Hold on. Let me trash this guy's account one more time and then we'll move forward.
No.
When someone disses you in the comments section, because Zach was like, dude, do you see this? I'll make it quick and I'll keep it professional. And you always want to make sure that you actually click over to the person's account. So you want to see who's actually saying this. And I went to both of the accounts, by the way, and they were both private. And with some goofy picture, and one of the guys' name was like Stargate SG1. Like, are you even a real person? It's so bizarre, those accounts. It's almost like when you're driving, right? And someone cuts you off or almost slams into your car. So you pull up next to them at the stoplight just to see if they look as dumb as they drive. So, onward.
And then they have the heavy tint.
Dude, every time. Or a coexist sticker. It's like, you sure are coexisting. You almost ran us over.
Hey, man.
Wow. Man. I love it.
Anyhow, to keep going forward, DeepSeek and OpenAI. So this was like a big viral, post, and everybody's like, oh, look at how fast and efficiently the Chinese government reprogrammed AI. That
it was all
existed.
BS, right?
I'm like, it already existed because America spent billions of dollars over the past decade developing. So they did what they do best. They took something back to the factory, they made a mold and they recreated it and they put a little spin on it. And it might be a little more efficient for the interim, but like, we're gonna wallop them back and just keep innovating and making things more efficient. So, I'm personally not buying the BS. I definitely think that Americans in the U.S. needs to have more pride in their technology and our innovation, and stop trying to shit on like what we're developing in the U.S. and like the cost of what it takes and the time and the ingenuity that it takes. I mean, good for a third world, whatever country to go in there and basically mimic and remodel and create what we're doing. Like it's you know whatever, man. It's
Listen,
like
we talk about it all the time. And again,
I don't reinvent the wheel.
They didn't. They didn't at all. And again, long game, ChatGPT, OpenAI, they've built a global base of people that are paying for their product and their service too. Yeah. And there's something to be said for that. And I thought this was a smart move by Zuck. Zuck did this. Hey, we're going to give you Facebook and Instagram for free. But if you want to be verified, which positions you as more of an authority, you pay us $15 a month, $12 a month, and you get the premium badge, you get the customer service response. Even old Patty Boy has all green checks now on Instagram. I'm not flagged or anything. They are modifying what they're doing to set people up for success on their platforms. This is where TikTok is really going to have to be aware that if they don't sign a good deal, again, over the next 2 months, the countdown's on. If they don't partner with Oracle or Microsoft or any of these companies that are now making offers, Mr. Beast, you brought him up earlier, TikTok's gone. I think a deal's going to happen, but what happened was Reels by Instagram ripped off TikTok. Reels on Facebook, Shorts on YouTube. They took it, just like you said, they took what they did and turned it into their own piece of their apps. And so the American companies took TikTok and made it even better and made it only one piece of what the platform offers. Facebook and Instagram are brilliant platforms.
Yeah. I mean, look, that 24 hours offline, I think for TikTok definitely was a huge dent to their momentum. I mean, definitely hit them hard pretty quickly. But essentially, people really don't understand why there's debate over it. Like it's amazing to me that people like there's a lot of like ignorance as to like what's actually happening with all the information that's being processed through TikTok, where it's going, like the fact that they're mapping like overseas, bases, like just through TikTok, like mapping and just like tracking where phones are if you have an account out there. It's not about governments monitoring your information or wanting to do something necessarily with it. There's only one government that wants to do something with it, and it's China. It's nothing, which is why it's essentially such a big deal. And a lot of people, I don't think, really understand like the depth of the dialogue, and they're taking it as a joke, and they go out and they just downloaded the next app that they put to market, rather than being like just kind of like taking a stand on it.
Well, and the other thing is, how am I going to use the app? I think people need to ask themselves that question, whether it's DeepSeek or it's ChatGPT or it's Claude or it's Gemini or it's one of these AI apps. What are you using it for?
Well, I think they need to be really careful whatever they're putting into DeepSeak. Like whatever you do,
I haven't even downloaded it. I don't want anything to do with it.
I haven't touched it. I have zero interest in it, at the moment. And I think it's one of those things. It's like, give it a little time, wait and see. But like seriously, like when it comes to innovation and what organizations and companies do, or like inventors out there, like don't just look past all the decades of work or billions of dollars that were contributed and be like, oh wow, somebody started like last year and this is where they're at. Like, good for you. Like, let's move on. It's like, let's see what the persistence, and pursuit continues to show. It's
it's like we talked about with music. Like you hear something that works for someone else, and it's like maybe they worked 2 or 3 years and they came out with that record, and then a month later someone went into a studio and wrote a song with a similar tone and a similar guitar style, maybe even a similar chord progression and a similar chorus. It's like, oh, they did it. Oh, they got this new thing. It's like, yeah, but the other one's still the original. People still listen to Led Zeppelin. People still listen to the Beatles. People still listen to Elvis. People will always listen to Dr. Dre and Michael Jackson. The innovators and the trendsetters are always the ones that broke through for everybody else. And so you always got to think about, how am I going to use these tools to break through on my own? And what tool is the breakthrough tool that's going to help me get to that point? For me, I think it's ChatGPT. And these automation tools, because if I can automate, if I can get the audience to say the word podcast on a comment, and then it sends them to a free training where I show them how to record, produce, and post their own podcast. And then if you want to do daily shorts, you got to do X, Y, and Z. They're going to watch that training and they're going to be like, I don't want to do all this work. Well, good. We know that you don't. So just pay us. But if I give them the information for free, they're going to look at the information and they're going to realize how much work it is. And they're going to start assessing, how much is my time worth compared to how much does this cost? Can I work with this person? Well, this Zach guy says he can boost my stuff. I can make organic content and he can help me run out his ads and get leads. Or I can spend a gazillion dollars to try and learn how to do it myself and lose my butt because I don't know how to run ads on YouTube. You're better off just hiring a professional like Zach or hiring an agency to do your show, because the time that you can't get back is worth so much, plus the money that you lose by not knowing what you're doing. And so I think there's a correlation here between a professional standard and an industry standard and just, I'm just going to figure this out. DeepSeek didn't just figure that out. They watched someone else innovate and copied it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just in sake of, from that, let's, parlay forward here into the year of the influencer. I would say probably some of the people with the thickest skin when it comes to like acting and getting information. And I mean, what would you call an influencer? Are they an actor? Are they music? Like, I think there are a lot of things, but the thing is
there's categories for sure.
Definitely, I would say influencers have very thick skin, are relentless in their pursuit, and they have the stamina and the staying power in a lot of content. I know we talked how power of like one piece of content over hundreds, if not thousands, but that influencer is going to have a higher probability of hitting that content or hitting that zinger than the person that's not an influencer at all. So it's not a wonder as to why you see the top influencers start to produce the top content that goes viral and allows them to create influence beyond just their profiles.
I also think that everyone is an influencer. Everyone's an influencer. Yeah. You're influencing the people around you every day. You're influencing your family every day. You're influencing your kids. Anything that comes out of my mouth ends up coming out of my kids' mouths. So I got to watch what I say. You got to watch what I say. I mean, they repeat everything I say, especially the bad stuff. I'm like, where'd you get that from? And I'm like, oh, yeah. I said it when I stubbed my toe in the garage. Hey, right? Man. You got to be careful. So I think people who are not taking action on video or on camera have convinced themselves somehow that what they know or what they stand for, what they want to do or what they want to be isn't something that people want to hear. When in reality, we do want to hear it. And we do want you to post, because the more people that are sharing, the more people that are putting themselves out there, the more confident we're going to be as a society, the more conversations we're going to have with each other, rather than just packing up, sitting in the backyard and being mad in comment sections. Go out and create your own narrative. Go out and create your own future. Go out and create your own client base and go out and be something. And your voice matters. I think we need to talk people into it instead of talking people out of it. So I think we're all influencers. I think that the biggest social media profiles are using a touch strategy between great organic content and boosting for conversions. So when you boost for a conversion on Instagram now, you can, and we're going to do this with your profile because you're good at ads. The stuff that you're boosting that's organic from this show, I'm like, dang, I don't know. It's Hoffman. Hoffman knows all that stuff. People are like, how did he do that? I'm like, I don't know. Ask Hoffman.
I was looking for an article that came out yesterday. But it's like where social went wrong. And of course it's an article coming from like, traditional media. And the fact is like social hasn't gone wrong. Social is creating more of a dialogue, more conversation, more pain points, that you can listen to or hear out there in the marketplace and detect what's actually happening. And it's, the biggest problem for traditional is it's where all the eyes are going. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of, I would say, they say don't steal their thunder, but like there's a lot of
competition now
for the traditional writers. Like it's not just controlled through distribution, right? Like, whether you get a Coca-Cola or Pepsi is still controlled through distribution, but not necessarily your news and information.
Yep. Yeah, I think that the entire culture has changed and that a lot more power is in the hands of the independent. The tough thing is when you're independent, you don't have access to all the stuff that's already plugged in. So, you go to an NBC or a Universal Records or a whatever, and you're Beyonce, again, this is a great example for today. She's already plugged in. She's already won Grammys after Grammys after Grammys, album after album after album. She's already plugged into the system. The people that vote on this know she's going to convert for them. And for what do they call it? The Grammy, there's a word for them. The Academy or whatever they're called.
I think that's the Oscars, but definitely even people are getting,
if you're a part of the club and you're plugged in, I mean, dude, you're tough to compete with. And so how do you build your own thing? That's when you become an influencer. When you've built yourself up big enough like a Joe Rogan to where you can directly compete with NBC and Universal, now you're an influencer.
Well, here's one. I wasn't even going to go here, but LeBron James, total influencer in the NBA.
Totally.
Parlaying his influence to create a competing league, right? And then he also has his like Nike deal. He's trying to create this Team James, but everybody still wants to be on Jordan.
As they should. Even though King James is great.
Yeah, even though they just made a blockbuster trade to get Luka over from Dallas. For AD. But the thing is it's interesting how I saw some stuff about this where, James is using his influence to therefore, to then compete with the NBA in a way. I'm sure the NBA has their hands in the league a little bit. But, he's essentially launching, competition to what they do. And he's utilized his influence that he built off of their platform to essentially get there. It's pretty interesting. So awesome. The year of the influencer and the year of like where things continue to go. It's a $20+ billion market, just like, the amount of money like changing hands, I think, to influence influencers to do specific things. I'm not sure if that has to do with their total economic impact as well. But it's a market to be paying attention to, and it's a market as an advertiser or marketer. If you have the ability to get involved with specific influencers that are interconnected to your community and talking along the topic lines and have the same audience, then they can really help you amplify a message to the next level. It's just right now the market is very disaggregated, so it's hard to find influencers in specific markets to help essentially like parlay that influence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. You gotta find the right people, or you have to become the people. And I think that this is something that the Morgan & Morgan, I went and looked at the Morgan & Morgan page after we did that video, and they focus a lot on the people that they've helped, what this person's case looked like, what the result was. And they focus very heavily on the results of the customer. So when they say for the people, when you go to their page, you notice a lot of the page is people getting results using their company.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
And they're very good at telling the story of the customer. And so that was something I really wanted to look at this week in our media is, hey, how have we helped this person? They never had any content till they came to us. We started posting for them. Now it's 2 years later and they're selling out conference rooms and they've got one of the best business acquisition groups in the space. Why am I not telling that story? Like, that's important. Kyle Malian would totally make me a video saying that. I think it's important for me to look at what's working for people like them. They've been around for a long time for a reason. It's because they're customer focused. Let's tell the story of the customer. It's great.
Yep. No, telling the story of the customer is critical. I mean, look at Bank of America's advertising and marketing campaign over the past, it's got to be like 5 years now. They've been featuring, different local markets, local clients and businesses that bank with Bank of America in their advertising and the impact they've had on their business. That's absolutely huge. You see it at a wide variety of levels where, amplifying your success stories does lead to more, success exponentially.
And I think that even me as a marketer, and clearly you guys can tell, I kind of like to run my mouth, have a good time, but it can be really hard to talk about customer results or getting millions of views for people because it comes off like bragging when in reality, it's just showing people how important it is for them to do it, even if they don't hire you.
Yeah.
If I can get somebody who didn't have a lot of confidence to get on camera and make videos and it works for them and makes their business successful, that is worth so much, not just to me, but especially to that person. And so I think if I want to be an influencer or a leader in my space, that needs to become my number one focus is helping people get results, whether they pay me or not, because I'm going to get the sales anyway. It's the same thing I did for Cardone and Vaynerchuk.
You don't need to necessarily influence the masses. You need to influence that particular audience that's going to be making the transaction and buying from you. It's not about, am I influencing the entire world? If you influence 100 or 1,000 of the right people, you don't need anything more than that sometimes.
Dude, I think that is the whole game, is finding the right people, servicing those people, documenting it, and then keeping them for the long term.
It's like, if you look at it, the entire production of the stock market is literally tracked off of 30 companies. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is 30 companies. You push beyond that, you get to S&P 500. It's 500 companies that are dictating like how people overall feel about the momentum of the US economy. So we are the most powerful economy in the world, which goes to the fact that like when you're trying to influence it, you don't need to influence literally, 100,000 or 1 million people to make an impact. It could be 10 or 20 or 100 or 500 of the right people, and you successfully made your note. You made your ding.
It's the game. It's the whole game.
For sure.
I love it. What else we got, Zach?
Definitely, to keep moving forward. So, just to speak a little bit to where do you get your news from? Because that post definitely hit a chord. It was interesting to hear some of the follow-up because, people are getting their news from podcasts. I found that very interesting when when we saw that comment, when people were talking about where they get their influence from. Podcasts was up there, man. People were definitely commenting that they have specific podcasts that they listen to get their news and content and information from.
Yeah, and so if you're an internet user or a social media user, don't get mad at us for broadcasting that's where people get information from.
Hey, you get really great content. You get in-depth details because you don't necessarily have a producer and editor cutting out, various information. As well, like people don't necessarily, I don't think they get last cut on podcasts. I think a lot of that content and format is relatively raw. So a lot of it is, produced as it's spoken.
I think that's why people like it. And I think that's why a live show that gets streamed feels so good compared to a studio podcast recording. We've done studio podcast recordings here and they're great. But I think that when we live stream, when you're done, it's finished. Like you've recorded it. And I think that's why Joe Rogan is so fast, is because they do it live. They track it, do it live, and then they put it up on YouTube. I mean, that Trump interview or Elon interview or whoever interview, famous person or UFO man or whoever you've seen on Joe Rogan, that was up a few hours later. And being that it was a 3-hour file, that can be difficult to do unless you track the whole thing live and do it all live and then you toss up the file. These guys, they're way better at this than people give them credit for. That guy's good.
Who's that?
Rogan, to be able to go for that many hours with these folks.
Oh, I mean, he's the Barbara Walters of our time. I mean,
He's crazy good.
he's getting all the best interviews, and he's extracting great content and information from these people, and you can learn a lot from listening to his podcast on a regular basis. You know, love it or hate it, you will learn from listening to Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh yeah, you'll learn something.
For sure, for sure.
I love it.
So definitely, to keep moving forward. So we went out there, I went to market with a camera crew this past week, and we went out and trekked a lot of like billboards and bulletins and just, cool information that you see throughout the city and town. I say town, but look, I live in a major city. I'm down in, South Florida. And the bulletins, the boards that you see in Miami in particular, which is one of the major cities in the US, were absolutely incredible. I mean, you take a standard medium that measures 14 by 48 feet, and we saw billboards that were, man, like 30 by 90 feet, or 60 by 200. You can only estimate or guess how big these boards are, and also like where do they even print these vinyls? Like where are they getting them from? It's pretty amazing feat of artistry and marketing and advertising that we saw just across the town. So pretty excited to bring that content forward.
It's great.
But it was definitely awesome to see. And then like if you look at like Times Square, which is somewhere we'll get to, but the amount of boards and bulletins up there to influence the millions of people have to cross through Times Square every month. The ability to get market exposure there is just absolutely incredible, man. So billboards definitely. We were talking a bit about it. You said that it's amazing that Apple is one of the top buyers of billboard advertising.
That actually kind of shocked me. I'm going to be honest.
Really?
I had no idea.
The biggest, it's one of the biggest companies in the world. I can't keep up with who's the biggest today, but let's just call them, a top 5 for sure, dominant organization, top revenue producer, definitely utilizing billboards to, continue expanding their brand and influence. Definitely in major metros and keeping themselves top of mind when it comes to marketing the iPhone in particular, and then they use the lead in, the additional products that they try to push,
right?
Like the watch and, the other aspects of the wearables that they produce. But it's all about the phone. They need the phone in people's hands. If the phone isn't in your hands and you're not, a return customer, they could lose you for a number of years, and they don't want to lose you for a number of years.
Well, and that's where we as marketers got to understand that, like, dude, you got to speak to people's fingertips. Yeah. Not just to their brains. You got to talk to their fingers. It's weird.
Well, that neuro connection that gets them to use their fingers.
Yeah. How do you get them active? Dude, again, the Beyonce thing, like they knew people were going to talk about that today. Everyone's talking about that Grammy thing just because she won. And it was country. Right?
I mean, really? Is that really all they're talking about?
All over Facebook, all over. I mean, maybe it's just my network. I don't know. Old folks that are like Texas purists about country. I mean, I live in Dallas, Texas. So everybody's like, that ain't real country. And it's like, well, what is? This is where maybe I'm taking her side now, but you have to understand, she's a marketer, she's an entertainer, she's a performer. Her job is to get attention and sustain attention. And she found another angle that she could come in and compete in another angle in another arena. And she went in and got paid.
Well, I think the beauty of social media is it is showing the true diversity and just the penetration of all markets. It's not necessarily, markets aren't necessarily like siloed anymore for like a particular look and feel and person. Like it's definitely, there's an audience for everything essentially. And there's a lot of diversity that plays into it, whether people, I love it. But there's people that don't. It's definitely, it's a big part of South Florida culture. It's definitely having a melting pot. So those things are definitely, in my opinion, definitely important in culture. And you see it yeah, amplified via social media as to how people feel about specific things. But you go, Beyonce.
Yeah, you go,
I,
girl. Yeah,
I
trust
am
me.
interested to listen, but
Yeah, I'm gonna go listen to it.
when you listen to the Billboard, 100, I don't know I don't know if she hit, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
totally.
Um,
Hey, by the
but
way, Zuckerberg added this new comment feature inside the live stream, Facebook Live
mhm.
dashboard. It's kind of cool. I'm going to be honest. For as much of a pain in the badunka as this little connector can be, he's starting to put some good features out. So good job, Zuck. Good job, Zuckerberg. This new live comment feature, I can respond directly to people in Facebook right here from my computer for us. So if you love us or if you hate us, we get a lot of love on Facebook. Facebook makes me feel good.
Well, that's what TikTok did to a lot of people, made them feel good, which is a lot of that data there. It's
They got a lot of
yeah.
data on old Patty Boy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, man.
Anyhow, well, definitely, I don't really have much else to cover. How about
Cool.
yourself?
That's pretty much it for me. I mean, I thought we did a good job with the trends and stuff. I mean, what's happening in the world and what people are actually talking about. And I had this in my book, which you can order off my website, pathilton.com, or we'll just give you this for free. There's a viral window of when a topic's cool, and that topic or item could be, like I say, a hit song. Well, hit song's only cool for so long. And then
Yeah.
this movie is only cool for so long, or this new Lego thing, or this new book, or this new outfit, or this cool new trendy shoe, or whatever is only cool for so long before it's not that cool anymore, because now everybody knows what it is. Everybody's heard the song, seen the movie, seen the podcast, heard the Trump comment. So there's going to be something else tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And so our job as marketers is to try and kind of choreograph what's happening in real time and put ourselves in a position to be able to hit the ball. And I think trending topics is going to get more and more popular, because as business and marketing people, we love to talk about business and marketing, but most other people don't. So how do we do it in a way that's actually fun and involves what people are already talking about? And I think you do that really well on the show. Is here's what people are actually talking about. Here's a list. And here's how it actually, here's how it's connected to marketing and business. You're good at that.
Right? Isn't the Super Bowl coming up next weekend, right?
I don't know, but the Royal Rumble was this past weekend, and it was a good Royal Rumble. Jimmy Uso won the Rumble for the men, and Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair's daughter, won the Royal Rumble for the women. Woo! So the generations have been passed down.
The Super Bowl is February 9th. So
there you go.
It's been interesting running, it's just all the memes that are running up into the Super Bowl of Patrick Mahomes and the umpires,
the referees. I'm going to
field.
tell you, referees, you Super Bowl referees, listen up. If you guys throw this game, I mean, it's going to make it too obvious that you guys are cheating for the Chiefs. Because now, even I'm one. I know you guys are going to try and rig it. Because I know the money's on the line. They got the Taylor Travis thing going on. They got the Mahomes thing going on. If the Eagles win, there's no positive to the Eagles winning.
The NFL is at a breaking point. They are at a breaking point. This, we'll call it the big game today, but they're going to be begging people next year to be talking about this thing if it looks anything like the playoffs.
I'm telling you.
I want to see some gladiator war on field. I want to see some real hits go down and no flags be thrown.
Football is not even what it used to be anymore.
I want to see a 90s style NFL football game, not a bunch of penalties and flags protecting the Chiefs.
Yeah, so let's see what happens. We don't want to see you guys protect the Chiefs on Sunday. I don't even watch football. It's so lame now. This ain't the Dion era.
The public is even waning on their the fact that they are interested in the commercials. People are not. They're just not into it. It's the interest is completely dropping off, and it's the interest isn't like this. The interest is going boom like that right now. So they might have an NBA double digits year next year where it's just what happened? How did the bottom fall out? The bottom falls out pretty easily when fans in what are 29? How many ever other markets there are just totally get disenchanted by the level of lack of competition because you're rigging the games, man. It's just not.
I love it
ain't
when
cool.
Zach goes off on the NFL. I love it.
Hey, man, it's call it what it is.
It was
it
blatant.
is what it is.
The
I'm not the
Buffalo
only
Bills.
one doing that.
We had it up on the screen. They had the first down and they were robbed.
It's not due to popularity of a topic. I mean, it's just like people. I grew up watching the NFL. I could care less about watching the NFL these days. Somebody told me, "Oh, they're a true Dolphins fan." I'm like, we haven't been competitive for 20 years.
Good old Dan Marino, baby, Dan Marino.
Dan Marino. We didn't know how good we had it. We didn't know how great we had it.
Man, everybody loved Dan Marino.
Hey, man, he was
and Don Shula.
Yep.
Don Shula and Dan Marino. I remember those two names from Miami Dolphins legacy history, but it's been a while since I heard of. Didn't Ricky Williams play for the Dolphins?
He did. Ricky Williams is a Dolphin icon, man. He was dominant.
He was good. Yeah, I remember him. Great. He went to Texas, right?
Texas. Yeah, he's a Texas boy.
Attaboy.
All right.
Attaboy, Ricky.
On that
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Watch for that Super Bowl. Watch for that Super Bowl. I'm sure we'll talk about it next Monday.
Oh, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on the next one. It is Marketing Monday. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and you can go and you can watch the replays now. Zach's going to be so excited when I say this. So we updated the entire Spotify channel with videos. So not only can you listen to the audio replay on Apple Podcasts, but you can now watch the live stream replay on Spotify. So you can listen to it in your car, but if you got a Tesla or a really cool car with a dashboard, hey man, you can pull us up and watch it on your Spotify app, video and audio. So you're welcome, everyone. We love you. Have a great week. Get out there and market yourself and get competitive. Zach Hoffman, Pat Hilton, Social Authority. We'll see you on the next one. Yeah.